All right, let's get going. You guys have had this thing up for a while. We're here to talk about Azure SQL Data Warehouse. Welcome, welcome, welcome. The goals this evening, hopefully we will hit the goals. That's the plan. We'll see how it goes. My question to you, first off, a lot of you know me. I've seen some of you in presentations in the past. Let me just give you some fair warning for those who don't know me. I take the information I give out very, very seriously. I'm going to give you all the best possible information I have. I will get it as right as I possibly can, and I'll try to make it as useful and good for you. But I can't take it all that seriously. I have to crack jokes. They're not funny. I know this. You don't have to laugh. It's not a requirement. I'm not paying you. So don't worry about it. But I will be cracking jokes along the way because I can't just stand up here to give you 14 facts and then go to number 15. I've got to say something funny to get my life through it, let alone you guys. So anyway, my question, who in here is working in any regard right now in Azure? 3 people. Awesome. And one thing like this. Cool. Who in here is playing in Azure currently? In addition to working. In addition to working, yeah. Or instead of working. Start the backup. That's running. Not the world's thing. No. Okay, cool. Awesome. So only very few people in here. Okay, so let me ask you another question. Who in here has an MSDN license? Hands nice and high so I can see. Or has access to an MSDN license. You don't have your own personal name, but okay, cool. Just so you know, there's $150 monthly, well, up to $150 monthly free with your MSDN license, so you can go and play with Azure. You don't have to drop a pin. So if you want to learn it, that's the best way to do it. Can I get an MSDN license with credits for free, right? Can you get an MSDN license with credits for free? Yeah, you can. There's $50 a month. Oh, $50 a month. Okay, you get the essentials. You get $50 a month with MSDN Essentials. Okay, I always forget that. $50 a month. Don't do what we're doing tonight. Because you'll go through that real fast. It won't last a month, I promise. All right, so we're going to talk about Azure SQL Data Warehouse tonight. It's introductory. Who here is here because it's TC, it's SQL Boston, and I'm showing up at the SQL Boston meeting? Half the room. Okay, cool. So you don't care about Azure SQL Data Warehouse at all? All right, we'll keep going. No worries. All right, so my name is Grant Fritchey. I work for Red Software, and this is my contact information. If you have questions on this topic after tonight, get in touch. You want to talk DevOps, get in touch. You want to talk Redgate, get in touch. You want to talk query tuning, send me a question. You want to talk about execution plans, send me a question. I will answer my questions. I will answer your questions. I will answer my email. So if you've got questions, please get in touch. Let's get going. Azure SQL Data Warehouse. Who here is aware of APS, the Analytics Platform System? It's the same 3 hands keep going up.
Didn't they used to call it PDW?
It used to be called PDW, Parallel Data Warehouse. Oh, okay, a few more hands go up. Okay, cool. So APS is amazing. Right? It is, the whole concept is you buy this giant piece of hardware, it's a whole bunch of servers, and it looks like one server. So what you're doing is you're getting massive amounts of parallel processing for doing all your data queries and data manipulations and all this fun stuff, and it's just gigantic amounts of processing thrown at you in a major way. So that's APS. It's great, it's cool, it's wonderful. It also costs $2 million to get started. I mean, if you want to try it out, get out $2 million. That's how much it costs. I'm not making this up, that's true. So you're going to spend $2 million to get going, only to find out, I don't like it. Or it has issues, or it doesn't work in our situation, blah, 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 blah. Now you're in trouble. So this, Azure SQL Data Warehouse, is APS. It is the Analytics Platform System. But it's been democratized. while it is not the cheapest Azure service out there, it's fairly cheap. You can run it for maybe a couple $1,000s a month if you're running it really seriously. But it's way less than a $2 million starting price. Now, the reason this is working so well is because they're introducing it as a platform as a service. You're no longer looking at, I'm installing SQL Server. I've got to set up Windows. I've got to set up this. I've got to set up this other thing. Nope, it's a platform. It's there. It's a service. I want to set up Azure SQL Database. Oops. Nope, I want to rip the microphone through my shirt. I want to set up Azure SQL Database. I go Azure SQL Data Warehouse. I go to Azure. I start setting it up, and I'm going to walk you through some of the basics tonight. The only thing to remember, though, is that this is in the cloud. If you can't assure connectivity, it's not a good solution. If you can't be sure that you're going to be able to have a good internet, good bandwidth up to it, it's not necessarily a good solution. So if you guys are very, very, very focused on in-house stuff, this may not work well for you. But if you're ready to move out into the bigger, broader cloud infrastructure, this is pretty amazing stuff. It really is. And remember, it is, at its heart, it's just a database. Who here does already data warehouse type work? You build star schemas. Cool. Your skills are protected. We need good, properly designed star schemas to make this work. It has to be. Now there's a gazillion details, and I'm going to cover some of them, as many of them as we can in a reasonable period of time. But it's the details that are different here, not the broad strokes. The broad strokes are, this is a database, it has tables, the tables have columns, the columns have data types. Does anybody here work with data types? Cool, the whole room, excellent. Awesome, then you'll be very, very comfortable here. This is easy. And then there's all the details. Okay? Everybody okay with that? Just to get started? Cool. Let's talk about the architecture of it. Now, it is based on APS. It's using the programming that they wrote for APS. So there is an APS fabric that does all the management on top. But underneath, Microsoft is actually using this other product that they built on Azure, which is Azure SQL Database. And so they're using APS in combination with Azure SQL Database. And the APS stuff does all the processing work. So all the thinking, all the processing, all that stuff occurs at the APS layer. And then storage is separated. And it's down at the database layer. And so you pay one price for storage and a second price for the APS. Now this is exciting because you don't always need the APS running. The general approach that they want you to use here is they want you to use an ELT approach. Not ETL. ELT, extract, transform, and then load. Extract, load, transform. Extract, load, transform. What they want you to do is they want you to extract from whatever source you're storing your data in, move it into your data warehouse here. So, extract, load. Then, use parallel processing to transform that data into a consumable fashion. And then share that consumable in some other location, say Azure SQL Database. That way, you only turn on the APS aspects, you only turn on the processing aspects while you're doing the transforms, and when you're done, you turn it off. And so you only pay for it while you need it. Other than that, you pay for storage, and it's great. It reduces the cost, it democratizes the whole thing further. It makes it much more accessible to everyone. So it's great, and it really does work well. Now, by the way, I keep saying great, wonderful. I don't work for Microsoft, so I'm not getting paid to say this. The reason I'm so excited about this is I'll tell you a story. My company, Redgate Software, makes tools for Azure, for Microsoft tools. I mean, we're pretty hooked into Azure SQL Database. If you don't know, talk to me afterwards. I'll be glad to fill you in. But we were looking to try to come up with a tool for this. And we're like, okay, well, let's go in and play with it, right? I mean, that's how how you start. Well, let's figure out what's going on. So we went and took our, we have an analyst that worked for our company. We took the analyst database. We said, well, we're going to just steal your database because we don't want to build one. We're going to take your database and we're going to plug it up here. And the process getting up there was murder. It was incredibly hard. I'll talk about that process later. But it killed us. Getting it up there was just brutal. We were going through this process. It was just hurt. And we finally realized, oh, well, this is our tool, right? We're going to do it. We're going to actually make it easy to do this. But what was beautiful about it is once we finally got it loaded, we went to our guys, to our analyst guys, saying, hey, you guys can run a couple of queries against this just to see how it's behaving. And they ran a query, and it came back. They were like, it's broken. Why? Because it came back too quickly. Well, check the data. Oh, wow, no, the data looks right. Hang on. And they start running more queries. And then we're like, so is it working? Oh, yeah, it's working, great. Okay, can you get off it now because we need to keep working? No, 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 no. We're getting more work done than we've ever gotten done before. You have to leave this alone. You guys go create another one someplace else. Let us have this. And that's what got me so excited. It was so clear that this was a great new tool for our analysts, which is why I got excited. If they were that thrilled, it had to be something good. So, thing to remember though is at its core, it's SQL Server. So all the stuff you know about SQL Server is largely applicable here, except for all the long list of exceptions. But it's column store. Is anybody working with column store yet? 1, 2, 3, different 3 hands this time, that's good. Cool, 3 people. Everyone should be looking at column store. What version of SQL Server you guys are predominantly on? Who's on 2008 or better? Most of them are 2012 or better. Still most of them 2014 or better. Okay, so more than half of them are 2014 or better. Awesome. You guys can start working with column store. That's great because column store will change your life. Don't move everything to column store. You have to pick and choose what goes there, but it really does change stuff. I can't get into it. Maybe we'll come back another day and have an hour on column store, right? Although you're going to learn more about column store than you ever wanted to know today. Because it's the foundation for everything works. Because it is the default data type, default index type for when you create these things. And then obviously it's also SQL Server. Okay, so how does it work? Well, obviously your application is your application, whatever you're using. It's going to communicate through this thing called the control node. What's the control node? Azure SQL Database. Now that Azure SQL Database is going to control what goes in and what goes out of the APS, which is, we already talked about, which is the analytics platform system. That then goes down to a series of compute nodes, which are all different Azure SQL databases. And all the data is stored down on blob storage. It's read access, geo-redundant, you can pay for making it faster, better, bigger, stronger, whatever you want. That's your call. There are not 3 of these, there are 60. So when you create a table, you get 60 tables. And that's where things get fun. And that number is not something you control. Well, I only want 59. No, you can't, it's 60. What if I want 80? It's 60. It's all low level, it's down below, you can't see it. Everybody okay with that? That's just the basics of how it's going to work. So the table architecture is one of the things we're going to spend a lot of time talking about because that's where things get weird. It's clustered column store by default, and that's a good thing, unless it's not. Where it gets interesting is that because it's column store, and that's the default value, you're worried about things being clustered in 100K segments. Because what it does is it takes 100,000 rows and it puts in a little segment that gets compressed and pivoted and stored with column store. Cool. But you need about 10 of them to make a decent column store. So you need about 1 million rows for a column store. But we've got 60 tables. So how many rows do we need? 60 million. Per table? Per table. Most of your tables aren't that big. you might not want to go here. But the tables that are that big, you're going to see a lot of benefit. So we're talking fact tables and some of the other stuff. When you get into a real data warehouse situation, this becomes really, really, really exciting really quickly if you're at sufficiently sized data. If you're at lower data, the recommendation is to not use column store. The recommendation is to use just regular clustered indexes. Except that clustered indexes don't benefit multiple parallel stuff in the same way column stores do. So it gets weird. The thing about column stores is that it's compressed in these segments, or it's stored in deltas. The deltas have to accumulate how many rows on a guess before they get turned into a regular segment.
100,000.
A million. 100,000 segments, and then a delta will automatically be stored as a compressed segment. Although, you can do one thing to move your delta into compressed segments. What's that? The thing that Frank's going to tell you not to do next month. You can rebuild your column store index, and it will compress the delta store into. Now, why do you care about the delta store? Well, the delta store, column store indexes don't delete rows. They do logical delete. It marks a row as deleted. They also don't do updates. They do a logical update. It marks a row as deleted and puts a new row in, all of which gets written up in the delta store. So the delta store gets really exciting. Why? Because the delta store is not compressed and pivoted. It's a regular old thing that they scan to find data. So if lots and lots and lots of your data is in the delta store, things slow down. So you want as much stuff as possible stored in the column store compressed segments. Everybody with me? By the way, this is the introductory level. It gets harder when we start talking about all the maintenance routines and stuff. Now, the nice thing is that there's a whole bunch of built-in features. This is a platform as a service. So they're going to take care of you. It has locally redundant storage. What's that mean? It's Azure. They do everything in threes. There's 3 machines for, like, when you put a table on an Azure SQL database, you actually get 3 tables in 3 different databases on 3 different servers. Same thing here, except there's 60 of them, times 3. My head hurt. You only have to worry about the number 60. You don't worry about that times 3. You can also get geo-redundant storage, meaning the storage is stored in multiple geographic locations. You get automatic backups every 8 hours, and they're kept for 7 days, except that they've got this new thing that allows you to keep stuff for 10 years. I haven't tested it. I don't trust it. But it's there.
Why don't you trust it?
Because I haven't tested it.
Good reason.
That's it. Plus, I don't know what the RPO on it, or RTO would be on it, recovery time objective. No idea how long it would take them to go from their old storage, their old cold storage back to a restored database. I got nothing. I don't know. So anyway, 7 days is the other thing. And then all the data is stored automatically as TDE, transparent data encryption, so it's encrypted at rest. So there's a lot of protections built into the platform right at the start. Security. Security gets a little weird. For one reason and one reason only. You have to have one SQL Server login. You can't make it go away. It sucks, but that's the reality currently. After that, though, you can use Azure Active Directory. So you can use your normal AD stuff, you can federate your local Active Directory up to Azure Active Directory, and then your regular logins will get you connected up to this thing, and off you go, everything's great. Further, Azure Active Directory, well, I'll show you that thing. They've got managed resource groups, there's firewalls and built-in auditing, all automatically part of the platform. The firewall is there by default. I'm going to demo that too in a minute. It's all built in, it's all right there. So there's nothing extra you guys have to do. You don't have to set up a darn thing. You turn on the Azure SQL database, keep saying that, Azure SQL Data Warehouse, and you keep going. Okay? Questions? Cool. Demos. Let's play. Hey, cool, still there. All right, so my Azure dashboard looks like this. This isn't the default dashboard. I like that dark scheme. I wish we could get it in SQL Server. Someone please fix that. Help me. So, I created some groups ahead of time because, frankly, you guys don't want to sit and watch the little thing spin while it creates stuff. Now, because it's creating 60 databases every time it creates a database, this is not instantaneous on kind of situation. You want to set this up, it's easy enough to do, but you got to be a little bit patient. It's going to take 5 or 10 minutes. So you can go read something else, let them tell you what it is. However, so I don't show it as a demo, I set it up ahead of time so I don't have to, so we don't have to scramble around. Now, a couple of things about this. Has anyone, this is their first time seeing Azure? Just a few people? Cool. I will sidetrack a little bit for you guys. The one thing you want to do when you're setting up Azure, one thing that's very, very important, I click a little plus sign there, is you want to set up a resource group, right? Just type it in. This is extremely important, and I'll tell you why. When you start this process, and there it is right at the top, when you start learning this stuff, how do we start learning this? You start poking, right? Turn it on, okay. Grant, show me how to do this, I think it'll work. Off you go, it's Grant. A week, 2 weeks in, you realize, oops, made some fundamental errors at the beginning, this is all a wreck, I need to get rid of it. But Azure is a typical Microsoft product. It will be very, very helpful. Meaning, if you don't tell it, hey, put all my stuff that I'm experimenting with in this one resource group, it will say, hey, do you want a resource group or do you want a new one? And it's really easy to create a new, oh, well, I'm going to create a database and put it in a new resource group. I'm going to create a server, put it in a new resource group. I'm going to put an AD group in a new resource group. And I'm going to put, and I've got 30 resource groups for 30 different things. Now you have to go delete them because you messed up. It happens, no big deal. You got to go and find the 30 things that you deleted, created, and delete those, and then you got to find the 30 resource groups that you created and delete those. Create one resource group and dump everything in that resource group. For example, I created a resource group called Boston. At the end of the night, I'm going to delete the resource group called Boston, and it's going to remove all the stuff inside of Boston. If you didn't learn anything else tonight, take that home. Okay? That's going to be the most useful thing I can give you. And this is my test system right here. So I'm running a couple of different resource groups. Oops, went the wrong way. There we go. I'm running a couple of different resource groups. I've got a monitoring server set up. I've got MySQL set up. I'm running a number of different tests. Yeah, MySQL is a service on here. It's a platform as a service. There's another presentation. Sure? No, not me.
I thought you were signing up for sessions. I've been putting you down for January and February.
Yeah, if you don't want me teaching MySQL, that's a mistake. So this thing has a thing called a server. Don't get excited. It's not the SQL server you're used to. That's right here. It's Boston UG.database.windows.net. I'll click on that. And you can see I've got one database in here called Boston. We can add new databases. We create a new pool. Don't worry about pools. That's a money management thing. It's got nothing to do with technology. It's not for nerds. That's for business people. You can import a database. You can reset the password. You can move your database. And then you've got stuff controlling it over here on the left. Activity log, access manager. You can tag things. Okay. No, not really. You can set up failover groups. There's the long-term backup retention. You have auditing and threat detection built in. You will have to turn this on, but it's built in. Active Directory administration, and we'll show you all the deleted databases. If you've screwed up a bunch of times, you can keep them. You know, you can go back in there and, hey, I deleted this, but I didn't mean to. Could you please get it back for me? By the way, that's not fast. So if you're thinking, oh, I'll just drop the database, oops, I'll get it back online, no one will notice. They'll notice. Call somebody and let them know what happened. Fess up, own it. You know, this is your moment. But all that stuff's all built in, it's all right there. Now if we go into the database, it's not going to be the stuff you're used to seeing. This isn't, again, it's SQL Server under the covers, but it doesn't look like SQL Server externally. So you can see my resource group, Boston, right? Other than that, it shows me the connection strings. I can set up different stuff on my servers. It shows me tools I can start to use this on. And then I've got down here in common tasks, load data, scaling, monitoring, and opening up in Visual Studio. Now notice it doesn't say open up in Management Studio. Microsoft is pushing hard to move us all into Visual Studio. So don't be in love with Management Studio. Although, have they built replacements for all the stuff inside of Management Studio? No. So where are you going to go? Management Studio. Yay! I know. All right, so that's just, I just want to give you an overview, show you what's going on, how to set it up. It's easy. Let's keep going, because this is where the fun starts. Database design. Except we're not going to talk about database design. We're going to talk about table design. Because the databases you're going to build, you already know how to build. You guys said you've got PI experiences, you're used to doing, you know, star schema. Do that here, please. Same thing. It's, you know, SQL Server, create a star schema. Right? It works for especially for the type of data we're talking about. That works really well. So you want to do that. But things get weird after that. So let's talk about it. So you got to remember, every table, we've already said it, but I'm going to reiterate it. It's going to come up over and over and over again. Every table consists of 60 tables. It's called distribution, 60 distributions. And you can load these things one of two ways. You can load them round robin. Round robin is very easy to explain. Go to number 1, put some data in. Go to number 2, put some data in, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. 60, go back to number 1, put some data in. Now, is that fast or slow in terms of data load?
Yes.
Fast. It's very fast. Because you take 60 million rows and you go, yeah. It just splits them all up and spreads them across and off it goes. Now, how well will those 60 million rows retrieve? Well, what order were they in, and did it put it in order, or do we not know? Yeah, it didn't put it in order, we don't know. So now, when it goes to retrieve that stuff, where does it have to go? Well, I've got to go to table 1, table 2, table 33, table 57, and 60, I think. And then retrieve all that stuff. And so, yes, round robin's fast for load, not so good for reading. So the other distribution it has is hash distribution. You pick a hash key. Developers in here? Cool. Explain to the DBAs what a hash is. I'm not going to bother.
Something that go to bed on Saturday morning.
It's not the 70s, Grant.
I said a hash, not hash. Slight difference. For the recording at home, there's a distinct difference. So you're going to create a hash value, and then the hash value, you want it fairly distinctive, fairly well distributed, more or less treat it like you would treat a clustered index key. Best thing. And then that will slow down the data load because it will figure out which hash buckets to put things in. But then the data is distributed by the hash, and therefore the reads are fantastic. So you have to pick and choose how you load the data right at the start. So my suggestion is staging tables, round robin. Permanent storage, hash. With exceptions on both. Okay?
So these, the only two things that we're going to find any other partitioner?
We'll get to partitioning in a minute. Partitioning is very, very hard. You can define partitioning. you can partition your tables. We'll talk about it. I don't want to get ahead of myself too much. So round robin distribution is also what they recommend if you're starting out. If you don't have join keys, if you're not joining between two tables, round robin is actually very useful. If you're joining, so this is a star schema, you're probably joining, those, round robin becomes less useful. But the one interesting thing here is denormalization actually works pretty well with this. And I know, like developers are going, well, yes, denormalization is great. DBAs are going, ah. It actually works fairly well here. Yes, you're still dealing with the whole idea of duplicate data and all the rest of the nonsense, but it helps performance in a way that, by the way, developers, denormalizing, if the normalization was done properly, denormalizing doesn't help performance, it hurts it. If normalization was done properly. Normalization was screwed up, yeah, denormalizing can fix a screwed up denormalization. Normalizing, right? Anyway, sorry, different topic. Sorry. Personal problem there. Joins, if their joins are very small, you can use this. And again, staging or temporary tables, it's a great resource. The hash tables, you want to make sure that there's no updates to the hash value. Because then it's going to have to take that and move it from one hash to another hash. So again, we're going to treat this more or less like a clustered key. Because you don't want clustered keys to get updated either. Why? Because it has to rearrange the bloody index every time. Same thing here, except it's multiplied by 60. Right? If it has to move something, it has to move it in 60 places, or 60 times, or across some place within the realm of the 60 distributions, depending on where it has to go. So minimize that. You want fairly good data distribution, like I said, and minimal data movement. Very selective data, very few nulls, very few duplicates. It doesn't have to be unique, but a more unique is better. Microsoft says avoid dates. Now, the reason they say avoid dates is because most of the time, if you're dealing with date and 60 million rows, what's the distribution look like? A lot of redundancy, so not a good choice here. Now, if you're dealing with date time, the redundancy gets dropped pretty radically, so that makes it a possible good choice for this. But date time's fairly wide. Exactly. So they suggest you stay away from those. If you have to do them, but also you want to avoid fewer than 60 values, and that's an easy one to guess why. And then for foreign key columns, it's a good choice. Okay, are we all right with that? Cool. And these slides, I didn't mention this. The slides are all already published at slideshare.net. So you track them down. So data loading's hard because you have to design everything appropriately. We need to avoid memory pressure when we're building off those indexes, because if it has too much, it uses up too much memory to do the data load. That messes up getting 100K segments and starts loading stuff into the delta tree. So you've got to reduce the memory use by purposely controlling it so you go in 100K segments as much as possible. I know. It's work. Very, very hard work to load data in this properly. You can just dump the data, believe me, I've done it. And it actually works pretty nicely. I mean, the first time we did the data load and handed it over to our analysts, we screwed everything up. Everything. But they loved it. Then when we fixed the stuff, they loved it more. So remember, deletes are not deleted until you get an index rebuild because of the delta. Inserts are all added to the delta unless you're doing 100K chunks. And remember that you've got to do 100K chunks, 10 per, or 6.144 million rows to get to direct storage. But in 100K chunks. You want to do 6 million rows in 100K chunks. Minimum 6 million. That's not the max. The max is, Microsoft kind of won't say what the max is. It's big. But you want to go minimum 6 million rows. You also want to avoid triple loads, right? Well, we're adding 5, 10 rows for an hour, every hour on the hour, or something like that. That all goes to the delta. It's very problematic. And then partitions become very, very much an issue. Right? We'll come back to the partitions in a minute, because partitions are going to make you crazy. Seriously crazy. So the recommendations are, if you're doing less than 60 million rows, do row store, regular old clustered indexes. If you're doing greater than 60 million rows, then you go to column store. But if you're doing lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of updates, you might want to consider column store. You'll still get benefits. It's not like it's going to be bad. You're still going to get 60 little databases churning away for you to make things faster. But column store is the magic here, really. So partitioning. Partitioning is really, really, really difficult with this. Can you do it? Yes. But you have to ensure, first up, and frankly, you should ensure this anytime you're doing partitioning, that partition eliminations occur. If you cannot absolutely ensure partition elimination, this is likely to actually make your SQL Data Warehouse run slower. It's probably the only thing I know that will just literally make it run slower. Everything I'm telling you is the way to make it go optimal. But to really hurt it, partition the tables and then get no partition elimination, so it has to scan partitions across 60 of them at a time, because each partition is stored on 60 tables. Right?
So what do you mean by partition elimination?
Partition elimination is the concept that, let's say you partition by month. And so you say February, March, April, May. If you cannot ensure that your query will only ever hit May, if you say, oh yeah, we've got this query that's going to hit March and April. Oops, now you're scanning partitions. But if it always says, hey, give me all the data from March, and only for March, then you've eliminated the other partitions. It has to be a fundamental part of the where clause. Partitioning can cause rows to go to the delta group instead of a compressed group because 60 million rows, or 6 million rows, no, 60 million. 60 million rows, because you have to have a million rows broken up into 10, 100K chunks to get it to write out correctly the column store index. Try saying that all day long. Partitioning also can prevent you from getting 100 million rows in a group. Why? 1 million rows in a group. Why? Because you're breaking the partitions up. So partitioning becomes very, very problematic because this is predicated upon a large data scale to store efficiently. And so if you partition the data on top of it, you have to have that much more data. So 10 partitions to get them efficient has got to have 10 times 600 million rows. Does that make sense? I mean, well, whether or not it makes sense. Is everyone okay with that? Wait, you're probably not okay with it either. Is everyone with me on it, though? Okay, cool. All right, so, more fun. No automatic creation statistics. Yeah, I know, it's crushing. No automatic creation of statistics. No automatic update of statistics. You must maintain your statistics yourself. Microsoft suggested, I didn't take that slide out. They stopped suggesting this, thank God. They were suggesting you put it in statistic on every column. They stopped. You can do multi-column statistics. The syntax around statistics is all the same. There's nothing special, but you will have to create your own. Plan on that. And maintain your own. Plan on that. Yeah, I've already mentioned this stuff. So let's just make everybody's day great. Identity is getting fixed. There will be an identity column soon, really soon, next couple of weeks. However, no primary keys, no foreign keys, no unique constraints, no unique indexes, no computed columns, no sparse columns, no user, that's a feature, no sequence, no trip, that's a feature.
What is there in there?
Tables and columns.
Put your data in there. We have a key. We have a big key.
It's dump your data in there and then query it. Memory is set by connection. Oh, anybody have questions on any of that? Is that breaking anybody's heart?
It's just fine.
Identity is common. The other stuff, I don't know. I would think, personal opinion, and I don't know anything, this is just opinion, I would think that unique indexes has got to get done. It's got to happen. The optimizer, even though this uses a completely different optimizer, it's a different optimization engine, it's still fundamentally based on the core optimization engine. And one of the most important parts of the core optimization engine is uniqueness, knowing that it can uniquely identify a row makes a big, big difference in how it processes stuff. It's got to be the same thing here.
So are you saying that this is true if you use column store, or this is true period?
This is true for Azure SQL Data Warehouse. Period. Yeah. Doesn't have anything to do with column store. You're not a fan.
We don't do business layers for data integrity.
Yeah, the whole idea here is that you would load the data in, and that would have data integrity up front. You do the cleaning and all that fun stuff coming in the door. You would not rely on this to maintain the data integrity. Although cleaning the data in here would probably work faster, but you don't have any way to ensure that it's unique. And yet, it's still working really well for us. It really is. Our analysts love it.
Does it have regular indexes?
It does have regular indexes, oh yeah. Clustered indexes, non-clustered indexes, column store indexes, obviously. Memory, you only get 30 connections. 30. You try to connect 31, they'll wait until one of the other ones frees up. They don't recommend this as a massive, massive system for consuming data. Remember, ELT, extract, ETL, no, ELT. Extract, load, transform. God, I can't get that right in my head no matter what I do.
I'm not listening, so keep it.
Once you do the transforms, they want you to spit it out someplace else for consumption. If you want to like have 1 million people running their Power BI against this, you put it into something else for that 1 million people to connect. This has 30 connections. But you have to manage the memory on those too. There's low, medium, and high priority of memory. My strongest recommendation is high priority only goes through data load processes. I don't care how important someone thinks they are, if they're going to do some direct analysis, they get medium. Why? Because they can, if they're querying at the same time you're doing data loads, it's probably something you shouldn't do, but happens all the time, happens to me, I know. You limit their memory intake to medium so that they're not affecting data loads. Data loads get high. Because otherwise data loads will screw up and you get all kinds of stuff written in the delta. And you want to avoid the delta. The delta's bad. Right? Demos. I'm going to skip past that demo for the moment. I'm going to show you everything, don't worry, but we're just going to kind of go by. So there is this new thing called DSQL, right? Because it's not T-SQL, it's D-SQL. However, it's got some new toys. First one, create table as select. Or as they constantly say when you take a class with Microsoft, CTAS. Just CTAS that. What? Just CTAS that. What? CTAS? Create table as select. I'm starting to get into saying CTAS. And if I do, someone slap me because I really don't want to make that part of my language. But create table as select is pretty cool. Now, you have to define the distribution, round robin or hash. But once you do, it uses the parallel processing to move data around. Yeah, that's where things get really exciting. This becomes very, very, very fast. It's a really slick way to make changes to your data structures. Create table, define the table as select, run a select statement against something. And then off it goes. You want to copy a table? Great. You want to change the structure? Awesome. You want to replace ANSI derived tables? Don't do it. Or best of all, external data import, because this whole thing works off Polybase. And the CTAS allows you to do parallel processing on the imports to bring data out from raw storage into this 60 table format very, very, very quickly. Group by does not support roll-ups, grouping sets, or queue. Anybody heartbroken? Who uses those? Developers use them? Developers. Why do you guys use those things? Developers won't. We don't know what you're talking about. Nobody uses them. Actually, I know one person uses it. It's a big hand uses it. Labels. A lot of the queries you're going to run, especially when we're doing data imports, can run long. You have a way to label queries. You can mark a query, give it a label, and then track it. Track its behavior, track its performance, track what's going on. It's pretty slick. I wish we had it in the regular system. Unsupported features. So, you can number store procedures in SQL Server? You guys know that?
No.
Yeah, you can.
Why would you?
Great question. I don't have a good answer for that. Why would you? Yes. I don't know. But you can. You can actually just have call procedure 1. And no, I don't mean string 1. I just mean you can literally number store procedures. But not here. No CLR procedures, no replication, no table value parameters, no read-only parameters, no default parameters, no return statement.
Why does no replication make me happy?
You are not the only one. No replication makes me quite ecstatic. Now, views, there are limitations on views. No schema, you must use schema binding. Sorry, I keep saying no. There's all the no's there. I got to get stuck. You must use schema binding. I should change that slide so it says must. But you cannot do data manipulation through a view. If you want to do that, do something else. You can't do temporary tables inside of a view. If you need a temporary table inside of a view, you know what you do? CTAS. Kidding. Create table as select. Create the temporary table very quickly, use that, and then throw it away. You can't do expand or no expand hints, which is not that big a deal, and no index views. However, the no index views, again, is not a problem because what we're going to do, they don't say that. I'm kidding. Yes, CTAS, absolutely. Create table as select. Just create a new table. They're just shockingly fast. Few general notes, cursors are not supported. Yeah, you can clap your hands and you can still use a while loop, which is, guess what?
Just as bad.
A cursor, just as bad. All transactions are automatically set to and can only be read uncommitted.
We like that.
Well, good news, you don't have to look at no lock in your code anymore. Also, you cannot use select or update for variable assignment. You must instead use set state. Not the end of the world, but a weird hitch. Anybody ready to quit? All right, let's talk data import. Yes?
Real quick on this, what are your opinions on the odds that NewSQL stuff making it into baseline NewSQL sometime in the next couple of years?
I want that, and I want that. What are the odds? I don't know. I really don't. That is taking advantage of magic that we don't have.
Yes.
I don't know why we don't get that, frankly. So, however, they've got Azure SQL Database has sysdmdb weight stats. Why don't we have that? I want that in the box product. I want to know database by database weight stats. I don't want to look at system weight stats. I want to look at my database. Anyway. The import mechanism. All right. Do not use this. Do not use Azure Data Factory. Azure Data Factory is a beautifully attractive name. Microsoft puts it out there, the marketing team puts it out there. Oh, here's Azure SQL Data Factory, Azure Data Factory. You want Azure Data Factory, Azure Data Factory is great. Yeah, except it is the second slowest method for doing data loads. And wait until you get into the UI. It is a horror show. It is not good. And it also does require you to do installs to your on-premises or to your VMs to move data around. So if you don't want to avoid that, don't use this. Don't use this. Do not use SSIS. This is the single slowest method for doing data loads in Azure SQL Data Warehouse. It's a pig. It's horrible. Why? Because it goes to the control node and is therefore single-threaded. Remember that one little thing at the top? It has to read through that. It is the slowest possible way to do this. However, you're all going to do it anyway because you love SSIS. So when you do, make sure you put your timeout high. And I don't mean 5 minutes. I mean high. I put my timeout around 30 minutes because you may hit issues. I'm not joking. This thing's a pig. It's bad. But use all or nothing load processing. So break it up into 100 kilobyte chunks. But if it fails, drop it. Reset it, start over. You'll hate me for it, but you won't. You'll be much happier about the results if you start over. Parallel loads from multiple SSIS instances can help. So if you set up like 20 SSIS instances and try to load it in that way, it'll make things easier. Don't go over 30, you can't. But it's a mess. This is the best way to do it. Polybase. Polybase reads from the local storage, the blob storage inside of Azure. You can use compressed files, although you're probably better off using uncompressed files. That compression, uncompressing slows things down. But you want to have multiple files. You want to have a different file for each reader if you can. How many files does that make? 60. Right? One for each reader, one for each database in the thing. You may want to do as much as you can. You want to do a single operation, one write, but in 100K chunks. Actually, no, what am I saying? Wrong. This is the import from Polybase. No. One process. Bring it in. Then you break it up later. And this is the one process that as you build your Azure SQL Data Warehouse bigger and bigger and bigger, you're providing Microsoft more money, obviously, but as you make it bigger, this increases in speed. So the one suggestion that's been made by me and by others, make it big for your data load and scale it back down. Right, so you pay double what you pay during the day at night when you're doing the data load. Finish the data load and scale it back down, because you can't scale it on the fly. And there are third-party products. There are Red and Gateway products. So, free.
We love that game.
I'll show you actually. It's in the thing. One, you got to have bandwidth as much as possible. They do have a process at Microsoft called Express Route. Basically, give Microsoft more money, they give you more direct access to the network. I know people who've done it, and it really works. And it really costs money. I've already mentioned it, but make sure that you use more memory for your load processes. Load processes should go on high memory. Fixed length file formats not supported by Polybase. And basically, you want to make sure that you get a balancing act. Compression helps you upload, but it slows down the import process. So you've got to pick and choose how you do which, where. Tooling, and we're going to walk and I'll do demos on all this stuff. Azure Portal. Oh, right. Tools. Visual Studio, Management Studio, and PowerShell. These are our babies. Mostly PowerShell. You guys have seen, you've already seen the portal itself. It's kind of clunky, kind of slow. You have to wait for pages to load while you get from here to here. And it's really waiting for the page to load. It's not that the processing is taking that long. It's waiting for the page to load. Don't wait for pages to load. Run PowerShell. It's just so much easier than trying to load these GUI pages to get things done. PowerShell smooths out the process. Also, as you write PowerShell scripts, it makes everything repeatable. The more you do PowerShell. One of the lessons I learned, and I did it by accident. I wish I could tell you I was smart. I decided to do this when we first started doing our data loads and found out what a horror show the data load process was. Oh, by the way, it supports UTF-16 now, but it didn't. It only supported UTF-8. So you had to convert all the files from 16 on, because that's how they get created. There's no other way to control it in modern Management Studio. You have to convert everything from UTF-16 to UTF-8. Luckily, after doing everything in PowerShell, that was a single command. Add that. But believe me, start with PowerShell, you'll be much happier in the long run. Maintenance. Index maintenance is a must. You want to rebuild, but not because of fragmentation. Brent's going to give you good information next week, but that information is focused on clustered and non-clustered indexes, not column sort indexes. Column sort indexes you want to rebuild on a regular basis. Why? To move the data from the delta into the compressed segments. And by the way, bring that up with him next week just to see what he said. But what if it's a column sort index? Well, Grant said. No, Grant said he was right, but not a column sort index. You must do statistics maintenance, and there's monitoring built in. We're going to go over that. We already talked about this. DBCC show statistics works just fine, but it doesn't. There's no. There are undocumented features in there. They don't work in this. So you shouldn't be using them anyway. Now you can. It doesn't support stat streams. You cannot use square brackets. I'm sure I'm alone in that, but darn it, makes me happy. The portal has monitoring built in. There are dynamic management views. They will let you do specific PDW, which is parallel data warehouse. Right? We haven't rewritten the names on these things. Exact sessions, exact requests, request steps, SQL requests, all the stuff you're used to seeing, but it's for PDWs, focused. Weight stats, but PDW focused. You also can use DBCC show execution plan and DBCC show space used. You're not going to use this. It's stupid, it's a pain in the butt. You're going to use a thing called explain plan that you put in front of a query, and then it puts back an execution plan. Anybody execution plan freaks like me? Bad news. It's an XML only execution plan. There is no graphical interface of any kind, and it is completely and utterly in every possible way different from the execution plans we're used to looking at. Yay!
Is Red Key working on a tool for that?
Is there going to be working on a tool for that? Century One, is my understanding, they maybe, I didn't commit you to anything, working on a tool for that. They're providing the recording tonight, so I don't want to go on talking to anybody on there. No? Okay. This you're going to use. Because PDW space used shows you where your data distribution is. That's important. You're going to use that a lot. This is my one marketing slide. Everything else is mine. This is my one marketing slide. It comes up. Everybody always asks, well, why wouldn't I go to Redshift? So I've got Microsoft's marketing slide to show this. And I want to just point out the lies. Sorry, can't help it. I love this product. I love this product. But guys, don't lie to me. It's not cool. So pricing, independently adjust compute and storage, true, which is cool. AWS Redshift does not do that. Elasticity, grow or shrink in seconds. Yeah, it's seconds. Minutes are seconds. 60 of them. And so 2 or 3 minutes is seconds. However, AWS Redshift is hours to days. It is radically faster, but saying seconds is crap. Pause, resume. Yes, no. Absolutely accurate. Hybrid, yes. Azure and on-premises. No. AWS only. I'll let that one go. Compatibility, true SQL support. I'm not. Or wait, no, I am. They're not. They think they're serious. No support for indexes, SQL UDF, store procedures, or constraints.
Seems I heard it somewhere before tonight.
Yeah, didn't we see a list someplace before that said they weren't constraint supported? I know. Anyway, that's my marketing slide. I won't show it anymore. How are we doing on time? Ooh, our earnings just a little bit late. Well, give me a second here. Let's just do one thing. Let's connect up to it. So it's Boston UG.database.windows.net. And you remember I told you that they had new kinds of authentication, right? So we have to have a SQL Server authentication. We have to have one. And then there's the Azure Active Directory. Well, you notice they've got 3 kinds: universal, password, and integrated. Integrated is you pass down a certificate. You download a certificate to your machine, use integrated connections, it will look through the certificate, and if you've got a valid certificate, it'll make the connection. Cool. Password, Active Directory, right? You guys have passwords on your accounts, yes? Universal authentication. Now, why they had to call it universal authentication, I don't know. Two-phase auth, or multi-factor auth. You have to like get emails or texts or whatever to get in, and that's cool. And this, by the way, is built into Management Studio now because it's built into Azure. But we're going to use the old-fashioned and let's connect. Oh, no, it's a
Newer
window.
Windows.
Hang on.
And then wait 30 seconds.
Yeah, I know. Gonna wait for it to time out. My bad. It is database.windows.net. Database.windows.net. Yeah, I just typed it. Sorry, guys. Here, hang on. Let's just, instead of waiting, let's fix it. I don't remember the password, but so I'm going to use it again after tonight. Oh no, I can't get in. Oh man. Well, because there's a built-in firewall.
Yeah.
So I can't get in until I poke a hole. So let's poke a hole. I love showing this demo because people are always like, oh my God, you broke it. That's fine. We're going to add the local client IP. No, you can't add a range, so it's been asked of me. Couldn't I just add all the IP addresses? Yeah, you could. Sure. No. You can, because it's start and end, right? So you just do
0, 0, 0.
0, 0, 0 to
250.
255. Cool. But let me know when you get that done.
Yep.
So I can start trying to hack your system, because that's handy. I would not recommend that. So what I did was I just added the local IP address that I've got right now from the network. This doesn't always act instantaneously, but usually it's pretty fast. Hey, look at that, we're connected. Notice any differences between my local server and my new Azure SQL Data Warehouse server. Yeah, only everything. Databases, let's go take a look at the system databases. Oh, there's only the one. Scroll up, no, not sideways, up. Hang on. How do you do this? And there's a lot of system tables on display. Joking, there's nothing there. Now here's the database I created. And if we take a look at it, wow, suddenly the network's going slow.
Pay for more?
Hey, there were tables in there. I know there were tables in there. I created it that way. That's messed up. Huh. I created it with a sample database. It has the AdventureWorks Data Warehouse database that you create it from. Well, that's going to slow things down. Doggone it. That actually is a script. That's not part of the performance. Nuts. I can't show my explain plan now. Hang on, let's try it anyway. Just for giggles. See what happens. Fingers crossed. No! What? Oh, I got it. Oh, sorry. No, I'll get this. All right, let's try it now. No, nuts. Crud. Didn't load the data. Oh, boy. Since it took 10 minutes, I launched it and went away, and I didn't double check. Sorry. Let me try to create a node. Let's take 1 second. Let's take 1 second, see what we can do. Let's see, Boston user. Let's add 1 new database to the server. And you can't add multiple databases to a server. Not sure why you would necessarily. It doesn't do anything bad, doesn't do anything good. Boston 2. Select source. Let's try again.
Any pricing reasons why you might?
Not really. Oh, wait, let's try to create a SQL database. That's no good. We don't want that. Hang on. Yes, discard that data because it's wrong.
No. We want a SQL database. That's the SQL.
Also, by the way, this is why you want to do it all in PowerShell. All right. Boston 2, use existing Boston source sample, which is what it was before. You pile it done. Then put it back in the same server. Oops. By the way, it's the exact same password every single time. Oh, by the way, here is a little thing called DWUs, Data Warehouse Units. Now, what do they equate to? Chunks of server stuff that Microsoft's not fully explaining to us. Hey, bigger DWUs get more performance. Hey, lesser DWUs get less performance. That's the formula you need to know. And by the way, when you're monitoring performance on this, what are you monitoring? DWUs. If you're maxing out your DWUs, pay Microsoft more money. Or tune your queries and whatnot. Those are your options. All right, let's see if this creates quick enough. Probably won't. Validation successful. And you can see here, deployment process. You can also see some of the credit remaining in a couple of my accounts. And yes, I have quite a few accounts at Microsoft. 3 that they know of. Nope. If they give you a free account and forget about it, don't say anything. Yeah, it's going to take too long. All right, I'm just going to skip that part. I mean, all I was going to show you was the explain plan and a couple other things. You kind of get the idea. You can go in here, you can use this. Some of the third-party tools will work still with this, but a lot of the other stuff won't. Don't try to use the GUI to do tables. Oh, because it won't let you. It's going to force you to do T-SQL, or sorry, D-SQL, which is T-SQL minus a bit, plus a little bit. Everybody okay with that? All right, so resources I recommend, Microsoft documentation is actually fantastic. They're really, really, really fanatic about updating it, and they're wonderful. There's also the Azure Data Platform learning resources, and then my blog has got a lot of stuff. Yes?
Azure documentation is open source too. It's
Yeah.
on GitHub, so if you find a problem or have something, you can always contribute to clarify.
Are you bragging?
Yes.
The column store architecture, because you're doing defaults on column store, understanding how column store works is fundamental to understanding how Azure SQL Data Warehouse works. If we didn't emphasize that tonight, I probably should have done a better job. That's a joke, because I'm pretty sure I said that on column store easily. And hopefully we hit these goals. Give you an idea of what the infrastructure looks like, give you an idea of some of the tools. The tooling is easy because it's the stuff you're used to. The hard part is all the bloody details and all the restrictions. But my analysts love this software. So we're using it. We've got it in production and it's going. We're using it. Century One sells some monitoring tools to make your life a little easier. Hopefully they'll maybe build a Plan Explorer tool for it, because God knows it's hard enough to read. There's pretty good documentation on how to read execution plans, but there's shortcuts and stuff that need to get better documented. I'm probably going to do a little bit of that, but I'm rewriting the regular execution plans book, and I'm not planning to start one for this. So I'll do a little bit on the side. Any questions on anything we covered?
Yeah,
Sure.
so one way you told us it's important to marshal your data into this is right size chunks.
Yes.
And if I fail to do that, the result is one that loads slowly, two it performs badly because it's all in the delta tables instead of index tables.
Yes, except that you might not notice that it's performing badly because the parallel processing is going to obscure a lot of sins. Lots of stuff can get hidden by the fact that you've got 60 little databases running underneath, making life easier. But if you want it to be rock solid, yeah, you want to do that stuff.
And if I later re-indexed and fixed a lot of my loading messiness.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Generally, what we do, and what I've seen others do, is we do a weekly data load. But I've seen other people do a nightly load, and I've also seen a few people, and there's not many, on monthly load. What you shouldn't do is triple. It shouldn't be like constantly updated. But nightly, you can drop the database and recreate it, or weekly, and you'll be very, very happy with the results.
One more question. You
Sure.
probably have a tool you can point us to help us get those functions properly delivered, to make sure you're delivering so many.
The single best way to do it, and I'm not joking when I say this, the single best way to do it is trust Microsoft. Go down, I'm not kidding, not kidding. Go right down here where it says load data. Click on that and take the first choice that you're given. Just say, we wrote, so this will get you in, but I will be completely clear and honest. We wrote a blunt force tool. Just read your data structures, and if you've got bad data types, we don't care. We'll ensure that the data gets out of those bad data types into here just fine. By force. Basically, we turn everything into water cars. And load it up, and off it goes.
Is this only for for SQL Data Warehouse.
It's only for SQL Data Warehouse, it won't help you. I would have brought it up if I thought it would help you. He's trying to load Azure SQL Database
Without PowerShell.
without. In other words, he's trying to do it wrong, and he wants us to find a way for him to do it right without doing it right. But it's a very blunt force tool. I'll be very, very clear. What you're ultimately going to want to do is sit down and write your own PowerShell scripts. But if you want to try it out, you want to get started, you want to experiment, go and use us. We're free. It's free. That's why I have no problem just selling it. Here, try this. It's free. I mean, free as in free, not as in like we're going to charge you for it later. It's just, it's free. We provided it to Microsoft. We built it for them. They said, cool, we'll put it in with your name on it.
You say it converts the problematic data types to our chart?
Yeah.
Everything you are charged?
No, just the problematic data types. If you're using pretty good data types, integers and whatnot, you're fine. But if you're using some of the CLR data types, some of the other stuff, we force it. We're not. The whole thing was like, well, how much interaction do we want? The short answer is none. So, any other questions? Cool. It's yours.